Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Locker Room Podcast. I hope that everyone enjoyed our special edition episode that we put out last week for National Girls and Women in Sport Day. And if you haven't listened to that one yet, make sure you go back and check it out. But I'm also excited to introduce and announce this week's guest. Today, we have on the podcast a junior baseball player, James Salvatori. Not only is he on the baseball team, but he's involved in just a bunch of different things on campus. So he talks about a lot of the different things he's involved in and just overall what it means to him to be an athlete here at West Liberty. So it's a really great conversation, and I think you guys are just going to really enjoy listening to it. So enjoy today's episode. All right, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right, so we typically start these just going back to the beginning so we can find out a little bit more about you to see like how you ended up here today. So why don't you tell everyone like where you're from, and then we'll get into how you first started playing baseball.
Okay. So I'm from actually down the road in Wheeling, West Virginia. I grew up there, home and raised. Went to Wheeling Park High School. To go back to like when I first started playing, I mean, ever since I was born, I feel like I had either a baseball bat or a golf club in my hand. That's one thing my dad always like pushed on us was sports. I played pretty much every sport growing up, at least once. I wasn't a very big fan of basketball or football, so that's why I kind of stuck with baseball into where I am now.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about like high school sports and just like your feelings with playing baseball through high school, and then we'll start talking about like how you ended up at West Lib.
Okay. So like in high school, wow, it feels like it's just yesterday, but it was like 3 or 4 years ago. It was a learning experience, I will say that, because my freshman year, I had my brother to rely on. He was a senior, so I got to play a year with him. So he kind of like took me through the ropes and everything.
Yeah.
So it was like he was my mentor. So it wasn't like I was really left alone, just kind of sitting there like, what am I supposed to do? But yeah, so like during high school, obviously COVID hit. So during my junior year, so we actually lost the season, and because of that, ironically, I signed for golf here, not baseball. But we can get a little bit more about that later. But during that time span, I was actually the OVAC Player of the Year in high school.
Nice.
But it was a weird experience, especially because I didn't really have a full high school career because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So, but ever since COVID, I was like, dang, I miss baseball more than golf.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the reason why I'm playing baseball right now.
Nice. So, do you feel like you always knew that you wanted to play a sport in college, or when did that kind of like start coming into your mind?
I never really thought about it. I'm a person that's kind of just day to day. I never really look for the future. It's more of like if I'm here to say like, oh, I'm playing baseball tomorrow, I'm like, all right, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Somewhere like some of my friends are like, hey, you want to go golf? I just go golf. It was never like I look forward to something in the future. It's just in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think deep down there was a part of me that was like, I'm gonna never not play this sport. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we have to talk about that then. So you're in high school during COVID, so I'm sure like looking at colleges and visiting places was like a little bit trickier than what it would be now.
oh, it's so different because my sophomore year we went to like prospect camps for baseball, and we were going around, and like because of that, it was like you got out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going on trips like 3 or 4 hours away just to go visit a college. Whereas as soon as COVID hit, we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
It was essentially like, am I allowed to like reach out? Is it gonna break like NCAA rules, stuff like that? So it's kind of like held everything on hold for at least us.
Mm-hmm.
But then my senior year hit, and I actually signed for golf. But then I had an injury where I had to get the surgery, and it put me out for 6 months. And during that 6 months, I was like, I miss baseball more because I couldn't do either one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so whenever you were like able to start looking at colleges, how did you end up ultimately choosing that you wanted to come to West Lib to play golf?
So one of the big factors was for golf at least is Ogleby. So we have really good facilities for golf wise. And another big thing is I'm also close to my parents.
Yeah.
So my dad was really excited when I said, yeah, I'm going to West Lib. And he's like, yes. So every once in a while, if I really wanted to, and like I miss them, I can just drive off the hill. It's not like it's a 3-hour drive. That's about it.
Yeah. So then talk a little bit about that injury that you had just mentioned.
Yeah. So I want to say it was 3 weeks into my senior year of baseball. On a pitch, I just swung, and my arm just popped straight out, and it was just dangling there. I looked over to my AT. The AT sprinted out, and he like popped it back in. A part of me should have probably gotten pulled for the rest of that game, but I was stubborn, so I went back out, swung again, arm popped back out, and then I had to finish out the rest of my season swinging lefty because I couldn't swing righty without it popping out.
Oh my gosh.
Hmm.
So you decided to like wait until the season was over,
Yeah, I was not. I
missing
was
your senior
stubborn. I was
season?
not missing my senior season. So I think, well, then on top of that, we also won states for golf that year. So we got
Oh
to go to
wow.
nationals. So we got to go to Pinehurst for 3 days, and that was, I want to say, like June 15th. So I told the doctor, I'm like, we can do the surgery like
Anytime after
anytime
that.
after that. So the week when we came back from that, I got the surgery, and all, I will say this: I've never been so mentally stressed in my life.
Mhm.
It was such a mental game, just sitting there, just in the sling. Like,
Mhm.
I'm watching it, I can't do it. But even coming back was, it's like every single time I'm moving, I hear it crack. I'm like, are you serious?
Oh
In the
no.
back of my mind, I'm thinking every retort.
Like I can't do that again.
Yeah.
So then that was going into your freshman year of college.
Mhm.
So then at what point did you decide that like you said, like you missed baseball more than you missed golf and you made that transition?
So I want to say 2 weeks after my surgery, I had a lot of talks with my dad about it and my parents, especially my brother, because he played here, so it was also like an easier factor to get in and at least try it out.
Mhm.
And he always mentioned how like the atmosphere is like the team and everything was just such a blast. And with golf, you don't really have that. You're out on the golf course walking 18
Like
holes for
competing
3 or 4
against your
hours.
teammates too.
Yeah, but you don't get to see them.
Mhm.
Whereas baseball is like if you succeed, there's guys with you right there that immediately celebrate it. And
Yeah.
the same vice versa. So that was another big factor. I don't know. Baseball is just my sport. I think.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So you come to Westlib. Talk about that first year of playing with your brother.
Oh my god, I would love to go back just for one more year.
Mhm.
Just like I wish I didn't take it for granted as much as I did. Because our coach always put us together in our like hotel rooms because like they're brothers, we don't really hate each other. Whereas like some families are like they go head to head.
Yeah.
I didn't have that issue. Like I have 3 siblings, and all of them I'm like really close to. So I wish I could just go back. Like again, if I were to go back and say something, I'd be like, enjoy this year. Like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna have another year like this. So
Aw.
I'm a little miss it a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's so sweet. So then let's just talk about like your time playing baseball in general. So like your first year was with your brother and that was the only year that you two
Hmm.
played together. So then let's talk a little bit about like last season and maybe like some of the high points of last year that you were able to take away to just really help like yourself and your team train to get ready for this year.
Yeah. So comparison to my freshman year, obviously wasn't the greatest year my freshman year, but I learned from that and I built off that in like the summer. And from last year, like, I had a rough patch throughout the season, but again, you're gonna get in slumps. It's how fast you can get out of them.
Yeah.
So whether that's going and speaking to someone that like is gonna boost your confidence, but it's like for me, it's my dad or my brother, and you're like, I don't know why you're like thinking like this. I'm usually pretty positive, but it's being able to speak with someone that can help.
Hmm.
It not doesn't necessarily need to be like it could be a teammate, family member, or even just going to like a counseling session.
Yeah.
And like it just helps like that. It's like wow, it was really that easy. But some of the things I took from last year was the MEC tournament. Really upset going into the tournament. I don't know why or what happened, but I was like, I got something to prove, and I actually did very well. So I think going into the season, I'm gonna try to remember how I got to that little teetering point of being a little angry,
Yeah.
and I'll just build off of that from game to game.
Tell everyone what position you play
Yeah,
typically.
so I'm an outfielder. So last year I played left field,
Okay.
and this year it's either be a little bit of left and a little bit of center.
Nice. So then last year, I feel like you guys did have a pretty good run at the MEC tournament.
Hmm.
Like you had a big upset.
That was
So how do you feel like coming off of the MEC tournament last year? How is that just motivating you guys to have like a good preseason this past fall and then get ready to compete this year?
so one big thing is like we were in this situation, like the scenario where we got a taste of it a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and when we beat Charleston, it was more of like, why can't we do this every day?
Yeah.
So it was more of like a wake up call for a lot of the guys that are returning because we returned I think 7 or 8 starters.
Okay, that's awesome.
So like position player wise, so all of us have had that experience of what we want it to taste like.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of us are driven and they're like, we gotta get. We always say it's our ring season. Like we gotta go chase that ring, and that motivates us a lot. And like especially at practices, everyone's excited to be there. It's not like oh, it's like
Like
we're
you
there
get to
and
go
we
to
get to
practice.
practice and we're
Yeah.
like we get to get our work in and like we're gonna have a little something to prove this year.
Yeah. What are like anything specific that you've been working on, that you've been like focusing on yourself?
Self-talk.
Yeah.
So like before I go to into an AB, like for this past weekend, we had our live ABs for our first week. I got to get up there and it's just 2 words, be like, I'm the guy, or barrel machine, because like, you just want to get something like
Yeah.
hit the ball hard. But self-talk's like, as if you tell yourself that you're going to succeed,
No, that's so true. And I feel like that also kind of goes like hand in hand with just all the pressure that student athletes deal with. Like you're balancing busy schedules, so much going on. So how do you kind of like combat that as a student athlete to make sure that like your mental health and like everything to do with you is good before like you even go to play?
Oh, that's tough. Because there's sometimes like where I'm just mentally, I'll be honest, not in a great space.
Yeah.
Big things is being able to talk to someone. That's like the number one thing. Whether it's like a close friend, like for me, it's my brother. Being able to be like, okay, my problems aren't that bad. And for school wise, it's making sure I like make a calendar and like put everything of when everything's due.
Yeah.
Like for me, I use a Google Calendar, so like 10 minutes before I need to be somewhere, I get a notification. So that saves me from mentally thinking like, okay, where do I have to
Yeah,
be?
like freaking out.
Yeah, so that's like, okay, shoulders are down. Where do I need to be? Just look at my phone, and if there's nothing on there, then I can just sit and relax and play on my phone. Yeah.
Nice.
So
So,
another big thing is coffee.
oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So the preseason MEC polls just came out, and I believe you guys were ranked third
So we were
in the
ranked
North
third, yeah.
Division, but then also got a couple first place votes,
Mhm.
which I feel like is super exciting.
Yeah. So we kind of have some speculations of who we think voted for us, but I'm not going to say it because we could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just to see Wheeling above us, that really
Like the extra motivation.
Oh, we saw that and we're like, this isn't going to end well. So it gave us a lot more motivation during those past few days, especially even today. It's like we like look at that little screenshot of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is.
I know for like me personally, I would much rather go into a season ranked lower than go in like ranked number one and have all that pressure. Like I would rather go in with like the underdog mindset a little bit, because then you have like nowhere to go but up, and to like prove yourself by like beating those teams that other people like selected to be better than you. So I always kind of like that a little bit.
I can kind of agree with you a little bit on that, but I'm also the person that like I can care less about the rankings.
Same.
Mentally.
Yep.
If I feel like, well, this is probably healthy, but unhealthy at the same time, I feel like I'm the best person on the field, but you also have to be like, again, self-talk. You have to be confident going into it. So no matter what happens, I'm walking up to the box and I'm trying to find a nice word to say it without being really rude, but
well, you gotta like hype yourself up.
Like I'm gonna take my time getting to the box. It's gonna be, I want the pitcher to hate me before I even step in, because then that gets them upset, and then that throws them off their game. So then that feels like I can succeed a little bit easier.
Yeah, well there you go. So we're now just a couple like weeks away from opening weekend. Who's your first game against? What's your first weekend look like? And what are you really working on the next couple weeks before that happens?
So we play Malone at Prasco Park near Cincinnati in Mason, Ohio. We play them the 23rd and 24th of February leading up. So like every week we'll do live ABs against our own pitchers. So we got to get experience with our pitchers facing guys live and similar to we're seeing pitches. So it kind of helps the pitchers, also helps us at the same time.
Yeah.
And the big thing is it's warm this week. So for outfielders, we get to go outside and actually get fly balls, whereas there's been years, like our freshman year, we weren't able to get a fly ball until literally game one because of how cold it was. So the big thing is like getting reps. So that's the other than that.
Yeah. Okay, so you kind of just brought this up, but what is it like playing with the weather that varies throughout your whole season? Like starting when it could be so cold, ending when it could be hot, but then also like it could be April and randomly snows. So like what's that like, and how do you go into it not really knowing how much the weather could change?
It's week to week.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember my freshman year, we were playing a game at 1 a.m. and it was snowing on a turf field.
I don't think I'm made for that.
No, it's not for the weak. We've had games where it was 30 degrees on the dot. Whew. And it was just like, oh, dress warm. I remember there was multiple games where I had a hoodie on underneath with my jersey on over top, and it was just cold. I sacrificed my movement just for warmth.
Yeah. I'm glad I coach an indoor sport.
Yeah, another thing that is also really nice being indoors
Mm-hmm.
is it's always warm and you never have to worry about weather. Like
Yeah.
for us with turf, it's kind of tough. If we don't have, because we don't have turf, it's a
Mm-hmm.
little tough. So like we have to tarp it if there's a chance of rain,
Yeah.
and then we wake up at like 7:30, 8, untarp it, go get food, come back at 9:30, 10. Then that's basically our day. Like we're sacrificing a full day just to baseball, which I look forward to. A lot
Yeah.
of guys, it's like this is rough, but like we get to play.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else or any other like baseball stories or just anything else baseball related that you've been thinking of before we maybe like get into some other stuff?
I really got nothing. Although we do have our family layoff dinner, so I'm really
Oh
excited
yeah.
about that coming up. We have a Keystone speaker, Mike Rooney. He's a ESPN lead app analyst, I think.
Wait, that is so cool.
Yeah, so I'm at least want to go up and shake his hand at least once.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. That's coming up. So
Nice. All right, so we got to talk about school a little bit. So, what is your major?
so it's the correct term is visual communications, digital media design.
Okay.
So it's more of like creating graphics, web design. I think I like more web design than anything else,
Mm-hmm.
and then video editing, which is also pretty
Yeah. Why did you like choose that major?
fun. Well, I came in as a management major or a
Okay.
marketing major. I can't remember. It was my freshman year. And then my sister, because she came here as well, was like, "You should try this visual communications class." And it was basically just creating graphics, and I liked it a lot. And I said, honestly, I can see myself doing this more so than management.
That makes sense.
So then I just switched my majors, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. Do you, which I mean, if you still have plenty of time, so if you don't
hmm
have any like specific plans, that's completely fine too. But do you have any like ideas for something that you might want to do in the future after you graduate?
Um, honestly, don't even want to think that far ahead.
Yeah.
But I guess trying to find like a job within the sports, so like just so I can stick around it,
Yeah.
because I think no matter what, I want to be involved with sports,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's baseball or golf, because that's basically taken up ever since I was maybe this big.
Yeah.
I remember I have a photo on somewhere on my phone where it's me and my dad. My dad's in the background swinging, and I'm sitting there holding a club and like looking
Aw.
up at the camera. And I swear I was not. I don't even know if I was this tall.
Aw.
So
That's
that's
so
one.
sweet.
hmm
Do you, I'm gonna have to pause. Shoot. I'm messing up because I don't know where I'm at. Um, okay, I'm ready now. So, what other things like are you involved in around campus?
I'm actually also a resident assistant here on campus.
Okay.
So I became an RA last spring, so
Oh,
during the
nice.
baseball season. So that was another little transition period. But there's like I think 53 RAs total.
Oh,
So
wow.
like that's basically our another community of family. So
Mm-hmm.
I basically have two families on campus, one with the RAs and one with baseball. I was involved with SGA, but because the season's coming up, I resigned. It's
Mm-hmm.
like this is too much. It's not like it's a whole lot, but it's something else that's on my mind,
Yeah.
like weighing me down. Also involved in student athletic advisory committee, so also
Yep.
with SAC. So I'm the social media chair there. I think that's everything I got.
Yeah. So, what like if you're in the off season or like during the summer, what could someone find you doing whenever you're not focusing on school or baseball?
On the golf course.
On the golf course?
On the golf course, in the gym, or every few days I'll go to the cages and hit. So I'd probably say every other day.
Yeah.
But no, I work on a golf course. If I'm not working, I'm either playing. So it's gym, golf, sleep, repeat, occasionally throwing baseball.
Nice. Do you have any other like hobbies or just like anything else that you like to do?
One I don't really tell a lot of people, and when I tell people, they're like, "Really? That's surprising." Is I actually enjoy writing.
Okay.
So that's one thing I'm working on, just like whether it's a journal or just writing out just moments or thoughts or like events that's happened. I'm in a screenwriting for film class, so we get to
Oh
write our
wow.
like own scripts. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, I'm a coffee connoisseur. I drink way too much coffee, so you can probably catch me at a coffee shop too.
At a coffee shop writing.
Yeah,
There you
I've actually
go.
done that over the summer multiple times where I've just gone to the coffee shop, ordered coffee, been there for 2 hours, either writing or reading.
Nice. Well, with like your graphic design, writing, all of those type of things, you could, I feel like, definitely find some sort of job in the future, like in the sports field somewhere. Like we have our sports information
hmm
director. I feel like that's like everything that that job does. So that would
Really,
be really cool.
I'll have to look into it.
Yeah. All right. So now we're to one of my favorite parts. So we're gonna do some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna ask you the question, and then you got to think of like whatever comes to mind the soonest.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite pregame meal?
Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
All right. Do you have your walk-up song picked out?
I have 3.
What are they?
So one of them's called "Yesterday's Gone." I couldn't tell you who it's by. I forget the
That's
artist.
okay.
"Top of the World" by Ace Hood, and then "Blue World" by Mac Miller.
Nice. Do those are they like different song for different game or like just different throughout the
So
whole game?
it's like the first AB is the first song, the second AB
Okay.
is the second one, and
Gotcha.
the third.
I didn't know if it like switched game to game or if it rotated throughout like the same game. All right. Do you have any game day superstitions?
I listen to the same song. I feel like before, either at some point before the game starts, I listen to it. And I don't even know how I got onto it. It had to have been my senior year in high school. I listened to a sea shanty song. Don't even remember how I got onto it. But every single time before a game, I listen to that song.
Well, there you go. All right. This question I wrote down beforehand, but it's going to be a really easy one for you to answer because if you didn't play baseball, what sport would you play?
Golf. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like a dead giveaway if you listen to any of this interview. All right. Last one. What is something that your coach says a lot?
Oh. Can't even think of anything. I probably is like, yeah, for sure. Because like if you like ask him a question that's like
That's his answer.
It's like a stupid question that's like he's like, yeah, for sure. And then you're like, oh wait, that's a kind of a dumb question. But it always gets us to laugh too. So
Yeah.
it like loosens up everyone.
All right. So now this is the last question, and this is what we close every single episode with. So the question is, if you could go back in time to your freshman year move-in day, what would you tell yourself then based off of what you know now?
Probably like I want to again live in the moment and don't like take everything for granted because this is my 3rd year and it feels like it was still my freshman year. But don't be in a hurry to go nowhere.
Yeah.
So that'd probably be it.
No, that's so good. All right. Well, thank you so much for being today's guest on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right. So once again, we have a really busy week coming up in Hilltopper Athletics. Tonight, the acrobatics and tumbling team has their home opener. We are here against West Virginia State and Notre Dame in a tri-meet. Our wrestling team is also competing today at Davis and Elkins. Our men's and women's track and field teams are competing tonight and tomorrow in the MEC Indoor Championships. Our men's and women's basketball teams are competing at home tomorrow against Fairmont State, as well as our softball team is opening up their season with 4 games tomorrow and Sunday in Mount Olive, North Carolina. As always, just make sure that you follow WLU Athletics and the Locker Room Podcast on Instagram. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Locker Room Podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And just don't miss any of our updates and our just exciting things that we have going on. Also, make sure that you tune back in next Friday when we talk to Jerica Baylor, a softball player here at West Virginia.